All right, you should be good whenever you're ready.
Okay, I see that we have 10 a.m. and I know that people's time is valuable these days, especially since all the counties in Iowa have to redo their budgets after the little snafu with taxable valuation. But so we'll get started. I'd like to introduce our presenters today. Aaron Dickinson with Kruger Dickinson, Krista Beisch, also with Kruger Dickinson. I'm Bill Peterson, Executive Director of the Iowa State Association of Counties, and Christy Harshbarger, the ISAC General Counsel, is also on the call. So we'll probably add a few things after Aaron goes through her PowerPoint presentation. So with that, Aaron, I'm going to let you share your screen. Great. And take it away.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for so many of you for jumping on the call. I know we've all been through this rodeo a couple times now, and so this should be sort of very similar to the last process that we had when we did this a while back. But I'm going to share my screen and get us going with our PowerPoint. So just give me 1 second here, and then we will get going. Okay, what we have before all of you, Krista, can you give me a thumbs up? You can see my screen, right? Okay. What we have before all of you is the next round of settlements in the opioid litigation. As you will recall, we went through this, now it seems like ages ago, but not that long ago, with the big three distributors and with Johnson & Johnson. And so now we've gotten to a place where there is another round of settlements. And so that's the main purpose of this call today, is to make sure everyone understands what needs to be done there in the state of Iowa, and to move this forward. So I don't think will be an exceptionally long today, but we want to hit all the basics, and then we will get this presentation, as well as, obviously this is being recorded. ISAC will get that out as well. So you don't have to, take copious notes, I think, to today. So anyway, I just wanted to start with a recap of sort of where we went in this litigation. As a reminder, my firm and me in particular sat on the plaintiff's executive committee leading the nationwide litigation. And so we've been doing that now since 2017. It's really interesting to think that we're almost 6 years into this case, and full-time work for that long. But taking us back just the 6 years as a reminder, there were three big groups of targeted defendants that we sued in the litigation, on the litigating county's behalf in Iowa, and now those are achieving resolutions for all counties in Iowa and around the country. And so they were the manufacturers, the distributors, and the retail chain pharmacies. Those were like the three big groups. And I just wanted to kind of give a recap as to who those folks were. So the manufacturers, on the manufacturer side, unfortunately, some of them ended up in bankruptcies like Purdue Pharma, but some of them have now worked their way to settlements. The last round we had Janssen, which is Johnson & Johnson. And now this round we have a new proposed settlement from the activist Allergan Teva entities, which are related entities. And then there are some other sort of more minor bankruptcies that have come out of this litigation. We are finished with the distributors. The big three distributors all settled, and that was the settlement we worked through about a year ago. And so you are getting payments currently from that settlement. The retail chain pharmacies really were the main defendant outstanding, and now are the main defendants that are settling this case through these new proposed settlements. So that's Walmart, Walgreens, and CVS. And those are the settlements along with the Allergan Teva folks that are being put before you all. There is some cleanup work to do, and we'll talk about that today, in terms of there are several sort of significant retail chain pharmacies that are either in negotiations or will be, as our guests, here in the near future. And so we're going to talk about that today. So the new settlements are the 5 that you see on the screen. It's Allergan, Teva, CVS, Walmart, and Walgreens. So there are 5 new settlements. And when we get to the point of talking about how you sort of sign off on those settlements, the key number is 5 documents that you need to sign to participate in all of those. The basic economics of this are the nationwide dealer on the screen here. Who's contributing what. Allergan is about $2.3 billion over 6 years. As you'll recall, that's much shorter than the distributors had been. Teva is $4.25 billion over 13 for a total of about $6.62 billion. So those are related entities, and that to us was the best we were definitely going to get out of those manufacturers. Those 2 manufacturers are generic manufacturers, and so had significantly different issues than like the retail and brand name manufacturers like Johnson & Johnson and Purdue. On the pharmacy side, the retail chain pharmacies are paying as follows. Walgreens is paying over 15 years. They're contributing $5.7 billion to the settlement. CVS is $5 billion over 10 years, and Walmart is $3.1 billion, but it's over 5 years. So Walmart's number is smaller, but it's over a much shorter period of time. So really Walmart's is sort of equivalent to the other 2. They're just paying in a shorter period. And so the total there is going to be about $13.8 billion. If you add up sort of what has been achieved to date by the major defendants, the first few settlements, the distributors plus Johnson & Johnson were about $26 billion, as you'll recall. Now we have another settlement that's approaching about $25 billion with the money from the Purdue bankruptcy, which I'll get to in a minute. So we're approaching around $50 billion in settlements across the country for this case, and obviously we're very, very proud of that and have worked really hard to get there. It has been a very long road with some significant financial issues on the defendant side that we have had to deal with over the years. So this is really, in our view, sort of the best possible outcome, given the finances and what everyone had to offer to this case. Additionally, there is non-monetary relief. People always ask about this, sort of what are these folks doing to have to change their practices? And on the manufacturer side, a lot of that focuses on, marketing and sales and promotions and lobbying and things like that, things that those manufacturers can no longer do. On the retail chain pharmacy side, it focuses on identifying red flags for diversion and making sure those are reported correctly and things that we allege they were doing wrong in the case. So just to keep you posted on that, we always like to, it is important to us to change the behavior when we bring a case. And so these are some of the items of behavior change that are really significant. This is a little small on the screen, but we just wanted to give you the big overall picture about what is coming into the state of Iowa and then to the local governments in Iowa. If you will recall, there is a state local government memorandum of understanding that you all approved last time that splits the funds essentially 50-50 with the state, and that we have applied that split here. This dollar amount, again, assumes that there is 100% participation in the settlement, which we got last time through a lot of really hard work, and we are aiming to get again. So you will get phone calls from us if you don't turn in your participation agreements. So hopefully today, when we walk through what you need to do to effectuate the settlement, that really everyone gets off the phone and just sort of starts to do it so that we're not behind the 8 ball here and that we get maximum dollars into the state. So, so that is, your participation is extremely important in actually achieving these 100% participation numbers. Again, like last time, all of this and frequently asked questions resides on our website for the settlement, nationalopioidsettlements.com. Make it your friend, make it useful to you. And any of I guarantee the frequently asked questions on that website hit a lot of people's questions. We're happy to obviously answer questions at any time. I just wanted to sort of reset back to, the current settlements. These were announced, sort of with the defendants and with our group of negotiators in principle in late 2022. And then we got to the point in early 2023 where enough of the states agreed to move the deal forward, which, as you will recall last time, we had to kind of wait to see how many states were in and make sure that the states had gotten to the right number for the deal to move forward. We are already at that point now. The states, including the state of Iowa, have agreed to move the deal forward. And so this settlement is moving forward. Unlike last time where we were kind of waiting around to see how many states. Now we're in the participation phase for the local governments. So that's what we really want to talk to you about today. Almost exactly like last time, the settlement does not get approved or does not go forward unless enough of the local governments participate. And so this is key. Participation is key to maximizing the dollars of the settlement, but it's also key to making the whole thing happen, as very, very similar, if not identical, to last time. What do you need to do? This is always the most important thing. If you take away nothing from the presentation today, this is the most important. You will need to get your boards to approve signing the participation agreements in the settlement and the addendum to the memorandum of understanding with the state, just saying we're using the same one again. That memorandum was a hard fought negotiation. And I will tell you, there's no better deal to be gotten than we got last time. And so we are highly recommending that everyone move this forward by doing those things. Documents, the participation agreements themselves. So there are 5 of them, 1 for each defendant, plus the memorandum of understanding, the addendum. Have been sent to you already, your registered county person already. If that person, it's typically the same person has received them last time, but you may have changed it in between. If that person has not received it, let us know immediately. We will get it to you. So this should be coming in emails by DocuSign, and I'll even show you what the email looks like shortly. But I wanted to show you essentially the key dates for the settlement. To be honest, the really most important one for all of you is get this done by April 18th, 2023. That is the drop dead date for local governments to have signed off on this. The rest is just showing you sort of what happens if enough local governments participate, when the payments start to flow, and generally speaking, that is next summer. And so April 18th, April 18th, April 18th. This needs to get done before that date. That's the very simple takeaway from this. So execute the participations that come to your county. Krista has on the slide, and I think that's right, that we had 33 executed forms back. I think Bill reported the AG's office's tally that we might be a little higher. We might be like at 48, but that's including some cities. So,
yeah. And I think this was last week, by the way, the 33.
Yeah. So
and I did put in the chat the counties and the cities that have not yet returned the form.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. So
and I sent it to you, Bill, so we can start circulating the list.
So to avoid us hounding you or email reminders or things like that, and we're not hounding you to hound you. Our job is to get maximum dollars to our clients and to all of you. You can just return the participation agreements that have been sent your way. I wanted to just quickly show, some people always ask, sort of what does it look like? What's in my inbox that I'm looking for? It is a DocuSign email that comes to you, and it is from this email address, opioids participation@rubris.com. That's the administrator. And then it'll be addressed to your county. And then it literally has a DocuSign that you can click on. And once your board is approved, you can go through and DocuSign the documents. That's honestly the easiest way possible. If you're don't have the capability to do that, you certainly can, sign in wet ink and scan it and return it to us. We'll get it to the settlement administrator, but you've got to let us know you're doing that. Just give us a heads up. So this is by far the easiest way, the DocuSign. And so we're kind of hoping that everyone utilizes that to the best of their abilities. So that is the process. It honestly is almost identical to last time and very simple. I wanted to hit a couple more things just so you all are aware where the rest of this is going sort of from here. The bankruptcies, we obviously have the significant bankruptcy still of Purdue. There is another website that talks about items related to bankruptcy, and that is the National Opioid Abatement Trust.com website. There's Mallinckrodt, so that's number one. That bankruptcy, the funds are already being distributed, and reporting requirements for it will go into effect. We'll talk about reporting requirements and the transition there at the end of the presentation. So just understand that's a pretty small amount of money, but it is already sort of going into the pot and being distributed. On Purdue, which is the most significant bankruptcy at about $6 billion worth, we are waiting on a Second Circuit decision that had to do with that bankruptcy, but then the practical reality is that will move forward. Endo is another small bankruptcy. It's less than $1 billion in funds, but it will probably move quickly and foul the lead of Mallinckrodt. About $8 billion will come through those bankruptcies, so that's not an insignificant amount of money. Of course, we always wish the Purdue was more, but we've gotten at literally all that we can get at in the court system with Purdue, and that's the biggest chunk of that. So I wanted to also talk about what remains at the end of the day, like when we have gotten through what I would say are all the major defendants now with this current settlement, and just let you know sort of where the litigation goes from here. We have cleanup to do. About 100 defendants remain in the case. Not necessarily all of those have been sued in the state of Iowa, but there are some in the state of Iowa. The judge is still presiding over our multi-district litigation in Ohio. He is very interested in cleaning up that docket and getting cases either resolved or to dismissal if they just don't have the funds or don't have the market share to sort of stay in the case. And so we anticipate that there will be additional settlements that will be put before you. There are regional folks like Kroger and Albertsons and things like that. In other regions, it's Publix and others. And so we anticipate there will be a couple more. And then at that point in time, we told our clients this last week, we will likely be coming to the clients that have sued sort of the more de minimis pharmacies or distributors or any of those to recommend that the rest are dismissed. So just stay tuned for that. Again, I think there are some in settlement negotiations that will be somewhat significant, but that is sort of the plan, is to get this cleaned up, money out, to the counties that need this and wrap this litigation up. It's been a long 6 years of litigation. So that's a general plan. We are at the point of questions. I know Krista's been taking some and putting things in the chat, but I'm happy to take questions, although Bill and Krista, you may want to add something, or Krista, you may want to add something. So I'm gonna let somebody else talk for a minute, and then we'll take questions and get everybody back to their busy Friday.
Yeah, let me just say, based off of some of the questions that I've received so far, so the DocuSigns get emailed. Aaron showed an example of what that email looks like. If it's returned via the DocuSign, it goes right into the Crosslink Rubris system. That's the system that is keeping track of all the forms that come in. We get a weekly report on what forms have been received, and also for the 66 Iowa counties that we represent, we are copied on that communication, so we can see the form as soon as it is sent in. If your county scans it and emails it, we have to make sure it's getting into the right hands, because if it's being reported as still not being received, that means that it's not yet in the Crosslink Rubris system, which is where we want to make sure it ultimately gets, because that's where the defendants are gauging whether we in Iowa get to 100% to maximize the dollars. So I just wanted to explain that briefly. A couple other questions. Do you have the list of counties that have signed on so far? This morning, I only have the list of I think it was 80. Hold on, let me count again. The
66.
80 what was it?
88 counties.
There are 70 counties that have not that their participation forms have not been received by Rubrus Crosslink, I would have to do, I'd have to compare that to the other counties to determine which ones have been received. If you are a county of ours and you email me, I can check to see if it's been received. And then one other question, can you remind us who signs off on the settlement agreements? Is it the county attorney or the board of supervisors? That is not an aspect of the settlements. So the settlements do not dictate who is an authorized individual to sign the participation agreements. It is state by state, county by county, city by city specific. It needs to be a person that is either authorized to enter into a settlement on behalf of the county or has been given that power by their position. So in many instances, it is the county attorney. In many instances, it is the board chair or someone that is on the board of supervisors. We've even had some counties that have given that power to an auditor or a county manager. It depends on your own individual circumstances in that county.
Yeah, so Krista, I think the process in Iowa would be that the Board of Supervisors should approve a resolution approving the agreements and designating who they want to sign the document. I think that's probably the cleanest way to get that done. So Christy, would you agree with that? I'll ask our general counsel now if that's what she would recommend.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was trying to remember if we did a sample resolution the last time. It could probably be handled by a motion in your minutes as well with the same
I
concept.
think, Christy, we did at least circulate a sample resolution and we would be happy to do that again. I mean, it's going to be very similar to last time.
There were a couple more questions. Just someone said that they can't see the answers to the questions. I think that might just be a technical issue on I'm looking at the question and answer box and it says open, answered, dismissed. So I think if you click on answered, you can see the answers, but maybe that's just what I'm looking at.
I believe the Q&A feature is only for panelists. So if you're submitting questions to the Q&A instead of the chat, just the panelists can view the Q&A.
Oh, got it.
Oh, okay. So when it says answer individually or answer to the group, that's not actually doing anything. Okay.
Well, you were responding to some people directly, I think, right?
Okay. Well, let me put in chat then. I'm going to put in chat right now the list of counties. Oh, someone just did it. Awesome.
I just did it, Krista.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So in the chat right now is the list of counties that, according to the Crosslink Rubrus report we received yesterday, have not yet submitted their participation agreement. So we do have until April 18th. So I think in Iowa, I think we're in really great shape. We're doing a really good job. But take a look at this and see if your county's on there. And then if you don't know where the participation agreements are, try to locate them because they were emailed to somebody. The authorized person from the last settlement should have received them. And I know there's turnover a lot in counties, and we have already dealt with that where someone has retired, resigned, moved to a different position, passed away, and we just have to make sure the forms are getting to the right new person. So I guess I don't know, there's 10 open questions. Are we looking at that then?
I think so, maybe. Krista, do you want to just run through those quickly? Just do them orally, and then I think we got some of these already.
The first one says the notice of the meeting included a note about ISAC planning upcoming workshops that will assist counties in developments of plan or developing plans for use of settlement funds. Have these been scheduled?
I'll answer that question. We've been working with the Opioid Response Network to develop that. The target dates that we're looking at for that session are May 24th and May 25th. It could be only one day, so it could be either one of those 2 days. but we are currently lining up the presenters. It is, there's a lot of details that we're working through on this. There is a SAMHSA grant that the Opioid Response Network has to assist in putting on workshops and seminars like this that would cover many of the costs for conducting the event. We're just working through getting all of that approved, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, so that individuals would have, by the end of March, 2 months notice of that. In addition, I think that we will be conducting sometime maybe late March and then also in late April, first a session that will focus on how to conduct a needs assessment, or what are the things that you need to do to conduct a needs assessment. And I would just give you an idea of what those things you should be sort of gathering before you came to sort of the strategic planning session at the end of May. Also, in one of those timeframes, we'll be doing a webinar with a deeper dive to see if we can answer questions about appropriate uses. All of these agreements have essentially the same exhibit, as far as I understand, that cover the allowed uses for the opioid settlement funds. And, we want to make sure people understand what those different elements of that means. And I think that will also be helpful if you were to show up for a strategic planning session at the end of May, give you a little time to think through what those are. So those are the 3 events that we're currently planning. Don't have specific dates for the webinars, but the actual strategic planning event, I would pencil in May 24 and 25. I don't want to get your hopes up, but it is possible that there could be some funds available to reimburse participants for their travel. That's part of the SAMHSA grant. And I think the benchmark is if you're an hour away, that you would be eligible for reimbursement of funds. So that's sort of an update on the strategic planning session that we're working on.
Great. Well, Krista, anything else that we see in the chat, or I can take any more questions?
Yeah, there's a few more.
Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't following the chat as well.
That's okay. The next question, do you recommend having it also signed on DocuSign, as we had to change our designee? So the DocuSign process was set up as as a courtesy to the counties. It's in theory, it's supposed to be easier to just click the signature and then it's received directly by Crosslink Rubris. However, you don't have to use that if you are doing, as Aaron explained, if you are doing the wet ink. We just have to make sure it gets into the right hands. So you do not need to change to DocuSign if it's more of a hassle to switch to DocuSign. You do not need to do that. Does that make sense, Aaron, Bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
I was getting 85 texts because my daughter just won the morning session at the state meet. So people were sending all these texts.
Oh, congratulations.
And of course I missed it. I'm sitting at the hotel doing this webinar, but whatever.
Backstop or backstroke?
Yeah, team record,
Great.
and is seated first going in tonight. We'll see. So anyway.
Well, I hope you're there tonight.
I didn't
hope
mean
you're
to be
there
distracted by that. I will not be here tonight.
No, I mean, I hope you're there tonight and not talking to another county.
I will not be here or talking to another county, sadly, but one parent will be here. So.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so next
Sorry,
question.
guys.
Is there a way to find out how much counties will receive on an annual basis for budgeting purposes? So this has been a very difficult issue that we are dealing with in the entire country. The unfortunate answer to that is no, because until we know participation levels, we cannot determine what amounts will flow. However, the what's the word? The untechnical response to that is you can make assumptions. So you can assume in Iowa, we're going to hit 100%. And if we hit 100%, the amount of money that is reflected on the earlier slide would be the full amount of money that would come into Iowa. And in terms of what that looks like on a year-by-year basis, you would have to dig into some of the exhibits to the settlement that lay out the payment amounts per year. So it gets a little more complicated to try to break it down on a yearly basis, but it can be done. It takes some time, and it takes some digging into the amounts that come out on a yearly basis.
So Krista, I'll follow up on that. So
Yeah.
Hopefully, once we get close to that 100%, I'll be able to get some of those estimates for each of the settlement. As you saw from one of the slides that Aaron showed, that each of those different settlement agreements for the 5 new settlements has a different payout time frame, which sometimes those details are a little harder to sort out, but we'll hopefully have that in another couple of months so that people can have that. We currently do have that. I do have a schedule for the ones that we've already agreed to, the Janssen and the 3 distributors. I do have a document that shows the estimated payout for those, but it'll be a little while before we can, I think we could show you the total amounts, but it's not going to tell you when those are going to come in each year. And I think for budgeting purposes, you'd want to know that. So that's something we have to sort out yet.
And this has been a really unfortunate aspect of these settlements. We are dealing with this in counties throughout the country because no one can even say with certainty when the payments will start. So we know, for example, with the distributor payments, that the 3rd distributor payment will come sometime in June, July, or August, but we don't know when. And, the calculations for what that looks like have to be determined on what the participation level is in any particular state. So it is a very complicated process. Aaron and I have been begging for this information from the administering entity. And we're hoping that once the next distributor and Janssen payments are finalized, that they're going to start giving some estimates for future years. I think there were a lot of kinks that had to be worked out in the first settlement that I'm hoping are worked out by July.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And Bill, the information you have, is that on your website, the ISAC website, or do you just have that available?
I'm not sure it's on our website yet. I have distributed it a few times to, I believe, supervisors in the state of Iowa, but we'll get it back up on the website. It's kind of a breakdown county by county with the 3 distributors and Janssen, just based upon the payments that were made in 2022. And as you recall, Janssen paid 5 years up front. And if you were 100% entity, so counties in Iowa have received the first 2 distributor payments in 2022, the first Janssen payment, which actually encapsulated the first 5 years. So they won't actually get a Janssen payment again until I believe it's 2028. And then they also received a payment for Mallinckrodt, which was one of the NOAT to bankruptcies, and that came in January. But as I understand, that will just be one payment, or maybe it could be another payment later on.
Okay. So going on, by the way, Erin, you do have a couple congratulations in the
That's awesome. Yeah, I was sorry to be distracted. I was like, I get just,
Yeah.
when you get like 10 texts in a row, it's either something major that has happened emergently bad or like something like this. So that was, at least it was something like this.
Yeah. Okay. So next one, we did the resolution and MOU with the initial settlement. I believe an email said if this was done, you didn't need to do it again. Is that correct? My answer to that is county specific, is it depends on what the resolution said in the first time. Many resolutions that we drafted, as well as resolutions used across the country, did in fact authorize future settlements and approval of future settlements, but you'd have to go back and double check that. Hopefully that's what I think in Iowa, a lot of entities did do that. And then it allowed them to sign the participation agreement right away. But
Based on how many we got in like right away, I would say that that's probably what it says. But like Krista said, you need to go back and check and make sure.
Right. Okay. I know my Board of Supervisors is going to ask the county share of settlement funds. Do you have that information? We do have estimates on the big picture numbers. And Bill, I don't know if you were planning to share that or post it.
Yeah, so I can, but I'm still wondering about the backstop,
Yeah.
because I think what I'll do is I could post a document that shows if the 15% backstop, which is withheld to pay attorney's fees at some future point, if they're, I'll see if I put this correctly, and one of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. If the national legal settlement funds, or there's probably a different one for each of these sets, doesn't pay a sufficient amount of money. But that was part of the original MOU between the state of Iowa and counties, that 15% would be withheld in the backstop fund until there was a resolution of attorney's fees. And then if attorneys are made whole by the national settlement fund, that are the legal funds that are set up to pay attorneys, then they wouldn't access that. But if they weren't, they could access some percentage, some part of that.
Right.
If they don't need to, go into the Iowa backstop fund, then those funds eventually would be released to the entities. Is that, do I have that right,
That is right.
Erin
Yeah.
and Krista?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can give a little more
Go ahead,
color.
Krista.
Well, I can give a little more color on the details of what happened with Janssen and the distributors, because we do know that the contingency fee fund for Iowa paid about 7.3%. So that leaves a difference of under, I'm not very good. What is that? 7.7%, whatever the difference is between 15% and 7.3%. So now we're waiting for the common benefit. And if the common benefit makes up that difference, then no money will be taken from the Iowa backstop, and all of that money will be released to the Iowa entities. If in the new settlements, the contingency fee funds are expected to be about double. So the 7.3% becomes 14.6%. which leads us to believe that the backstop in these new settlements won't even be touched. So although maybe money will be reserved, as soon as the contingency fee fund numbers are final and the common benefit numbers are final, the money would be released. So this was a discussion Bill and I were having this morning, that I think it's very likely that the estimates are going to be much closer to 100% this time around. Maybe there would be a slight deduction for an attorney fee backstop, but I don't think it would be anywhere near 15%. Does that help on the numbers? Or did I confuse things?
No, I think
Did
it
I
does. I mean, the
confuse more?
point is, guys, that we are trying to maximize every dime we can get at the national fee fund such that all that money can get returned to the counties that we represented on the back end. That's what we're trying to get done. And we're hopeful that will get done, at least for this settlement. It's looking much more likely that it will, these settlements.
Mhm. And then one more question, and Bill, this one might be more in your camp because I don't know if I know the status of this, is have there been any conversations around securitizing the payments into the state of Iowa?
And I can chime in, and then Bill, why don't you chime in if you've had anything further? We had been working really hard on a potential model for securitization in Wisconsin that then could get rolled out to different groups of our counties around the United States. And we have been running into some significant snags there with the securitization process and just getting it to all work out correctly and getting the defendants sort of to agree that we could securitize because there are certain percentages built into the national settlement of dollars that have to be spent on abatement. So we're working through a lot of issues there, at least at the, sort of the modeling level. And we kind of hope that we'll get to that point, but we are not there yet, Bill, unless you've had any discussions beyond that.
No, I think so. I've been following closely what my friend Mark O'Connell, the executive director of the Wisconsin Counties Association, is sort of leading this charge. And again, I think it resolves around that issue about the percentage of funds that have to be used according to the exhibit that says how you can use the funds. And if you securitize, you don't meet those benchmarks because you're getting an upfront payment, which is smaller than if you waited over the 18 years to get payments. Obviously, in some cases, it might make sense to do that, but that's the issue that we've been waiting to hear a resolution from here in the state of Iowa. And then if that can get resolved, we will try and move forward to see what we can get put together. But I would say that, that may be a year off in the state of Iowa before we would, we'll have to wait and see what gets resolved in Wisconsin, because I think we can pattern after them once that happens.
Yeah, I think that's definitely been the plan. We'll try to work through all the kinks with that and then hopefully have a format that we could roll out to other folks through Bill and Isaac after that. So that's our hope. It's been a little difficult role to try to get all those kinks ironed out, but I do think that ultimately we'll figure that out somehow and get that information to you, hopefully before the next sort of rounds of payments start. That's our hope.
One more question. Do we have a sample MOU resolution to use for these funds? I know, Aaron, we prepared one last week on our side, but I don't think we've circulated it.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something that we want to wrap up, finalize, and circulate it around.
Yes, I think that makes sense. Let's wrap that up and then we can get it to Bill. And Bill, when you circulate the package sort of following the call, we're happy to have that be circulated with it.
Okay, be happy to do that.
And then the final topic is just to remind everyone, we talked to our county clients about this last week, but that reporting requirements and things are built into the settlement, and you have to keep an eye on it. Our counties know that as litigation counsel, we can't do the reporting requirements for you. And that's true for even obviously for counties who don't represent. So just keep an eye on that. I know that Bill and Isaac and everyone has really been on top of that as usual with everything else. And that's great. But I just wanted to remind everyone that those things are built into settlements and to keep your eyes on that.
Right. So there was a communication that went out from Brown Greer, I believe sometime early in February, to all the entities in Iowa, talking about a requirement to submit a report by March 31st of 2023. Christy, do you want to jump in here and share sort of your analysis of what that means?
Sure, I can. I'm sorry you guys can't see me. I'm having trouble for some reason turning my camera on, but I'll just be a talking box for now. So I don't think most Iowa counties are going to have to do a report yet under that. It's something to keep an eye on. So you don't have to do a report if you haven't spent any of your opioid funds. But then even if you have spent opioid funds, you only have to do a report if you've spent it for something other than opioid remediation.
Yep.
And I can get you the definition of that if you've spent some funds and you have some questions, if any of those would trigger a reporting requirement. But so at this point, you likely don't have to do a report, but it's good advice to keep an eye on it, because if this goes forward, you may have changes in that would trigger those reporting requirements.
So
Yep.
Christy, December 31st of 2022, if you
Correct.
had expended funds, that's sort of the trigger date for the March 31st, 2023, right?
Correct.
There would be a subsequent, if you started expending funds in 2023, then I assume that next date would be probably March of 2024. Now, we do have also, I think there will be some reporting requirements as part of the MOU with the state. We do have to submit a report to I believe it's the Iowa Attorney General. And we have not resolved exactly what that reporting is like. We've had some discussions with the folks at the Iowa Attorney General's office, but the last that I recall of that discussion, the reporting would be done sometime, something like in conjunction with when a county has to file their annual fiscal report, which is, I believe, around December 1st or something. So, but we'll keep you posted on any updates on that as soon as that issue is resolved as well.
The only last question was, someone asked just to clarify if there was a new MOU this time, and there is not. The old MOU covered future settlements, including these ones. So the 50-50 split is still in play. And someone asked if they could receive the DocuSign form again. Yes, you can, but you have to reach out to Crosslink to get that information. I believe the email address is pretty easy. It's like something like participation@crosslink.com. But we'll have to get that email address and circulate it for anyone who's having problems with the document.
Yeah, I think when we circulate, Bill, when you circulate to the, the webinar folks, the materials, why don't we just get you that email address and then you can put it in the.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay.
And if we can't find it, if someone needs to find it quicker, I think it's on the website, hopefully.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone so much for your attendance today, and don't hesitate obviously to reach out to ISAC or us on questions. Get your participation agreements, and that would be really great. We'll keep updating people on the status of that, and eventually move to hounding people on the status of that. But hopefully because it's not a new process this time, that it goes really smoothly. So thanks everyone so much for your time this morning. Have a very lovely weekend. We'll hop off now.
Hey, Erin, congratulations on your
Thanks.
daughter's
I'm really excited. I'm going to go pick her up and give her a hug. I guess we're going to Culver's. That's what she wants. All right. See you guys.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.